Hi, I'm Brent. This is a video update that a lot of people have been looking for, and what we're doing today is upgrading the supercharger assembly on what we would call the standard bullet Sprintex kit used on the Toyota 86 Subaru BRZ. And this is one of our project cars here, which has got a fully built engine, and the owner of this car has elected to chase some more grunt, and we're going to go from this assembly to the larger assembly, which will obviously allow us to flow more boost. I'm going to talk you through what we're doing with the upgrade and why, and some of the technical advantages of the different superchargers from Sprintex. Now, supercharger available from Sprintex, there's four main assemblies in their categories that they offer for the car. This one that they put on the kit for this model is the second largest one in this range. This is the largest one. Now, it's actually what they call the 335 supercharger assembly, whereas this one is the 210, and you can physically see just how much bigger it is, and you'll see some of the still photos on our video channel that you can see the technical difference in it as well. But it's not such a simple thing of just going from this to this, because as the supercharger is physically longer, you still have to have the throttle body assembly located in the same place, because you're dictated from the front of the engine by the positioning of the pulley, which is driven off this assembly here. So of course you'll see, even though this one is longer, the throttle pulley position is still in exactly the same position, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So when you pull the front off this assembly here, this is normally on the front with the drive coming off the front of the engine, connects to the two input shafts to rotate the vanes inside. We spoke about this before. You then got to take this drive assembly off here and connect it to the new one here, and depending on how you're fitting this kit is whether you've got to fabricate a new one of the rear inlet assemblies, or if you can get your hands on these rear inlet assemblies, which are a little bit hard to get at, and we've been very lucky with the help from Tom at Bullet here in Australia in combination with Sprintex globally to get some of these kits. There was originally 3 made for SEMA last year. This is the 3rd one. They're looking at producing more kits, and they're starting to become available, but they're very, very difficult to get. But one thing that's very, very important is you must not put one of these blowers on a standard FA20 engine. They just run too much boost and you'll end up hand grenading the engine, which I believe has happened with one of these kits overseas last year in the testing. So then the next step is, how do you connect it to the inlet manifold? And we've got an opportunity here to show what the inlet manifold looks without the blower on the top, because remembering this replaces the original factory plastic inlet manifold. And in here, and I'll get my camera in to get up close, it's a bit hard to see, but all these little tiny fins are heat exchangers with water running through as part of the charged cooler. And what that does is the compressed air coming out of the blower underneath this plate, which normally sits there, with the blower on top that sits like that, then cools the charge air because of the water running through it with the radiator at the front of the car. But the other good thing about that laminova charge assembly is it gives a lot more even distribution to the 4 runners going into the heads. Now, the other important part is to understand how this supercharger runs, and depending on how you're going to drive it with this different size pulley at the front will have a big effect on the mechanical ability to generate boost. And this is the part that I really wanted to take the time to explain to people. These types of superchargers are designed to generate more boost as engine goes up, as engine RPMs raise. So technically, a lot of people think as soon as you put a supercharger, it's got massive bottom end performance with not too much top end. Well, the design of the Sprintex blower is a little bit different to some of the old fashioned blowers which are typically used in the past on some V8s and things like that. And the whole reason why on our ROH project car with the turbo was running a very, very small turbo for maximum bottom end performance, but the downside of having a small turbo is it has no top end performance. The opposite is with this supercharger. You have good top end performance, but no bottom end performance. So then when you want to generate more boost, this supercharger just can't flow enough because it's originally designed for an original standard engine. So like the ROH project car, we've fitted one of these blowers to generate more boost and more top end. So if you're fitting a twin charge setup, and there's a lot of people now starting to do them around the world, and you're using this type of one of these types of blowers, make sure that you couple it with a very, very small turbo for bottom end performance, because if you put a really big turbo on it, which typically are a little bit more laggy, they come on boost later, they're designed for mid-range to top end. You put a blower in between, effectively you're creating a huge restriction that may not allow you to take advantage of the fantastic turbocharger that you've got in place. So a lot of people ask us, why do we do it like that? Well, that's the reason. In summary, turbo gives the car bottom end performance, the supercharger gives us top end. Now when we put this on, like we've already found with the ROH car about a month or two ago, incredible increase in mid-range to top end, because this has a doubling effect on the boost that's already generated by the small turbo on that twin charge setup. Now on this particular car, we're not twin charged, we're only running normally aspirated with this original blower. It's a built engine, so we know it can take a lot more grunt. So from a technical point of view, let's just talk about what is the difference between this supercharger and this supercharger. This one here runs 0.94 litres per RPM. Now you've got to remember that the RPM of the blower is typically geared up and runs twice of the crankshaft speed, but being a 2 litre engine, you've got to rotate the engine twice to get 2 litres. So this will be running at around a lot more than what you would need, which is why it runs at 2 litres per RPM of the blower to match the 2 litre engine. The rated power is up to 225 kilowatts. The internal pressure ratio is 1.4. Interestingly, the weight of this blower is 10 kilograms. Maximum operating pressure is 2.5 bar, and maximum rotating speed is 15,000 RPM. Now, you go to the 335 blower, and this one runs 1.46 litres per RPM, and will run up to what, in theory, from Sprintex, 335 kilowatts. But when you work out the mechanical equation between this one and this one, it goes up to 6 litres of air compared to the smaller one here, which means you've got a lot more mechanical advantage. Interestingly, you're going from a 10 kilo blower to a 12 kilo blower, 2.2 bar instead of 2.5, maximum RPM 14,000 RPM, but obviously, you know, with this engine capacity, we're not going to run that hard. So from a nutshell point of view, when we get this car on this blower on this engine, it's going to give us a lot more mid-range to top end. Still got good mechanical advantage. You can gear it up a lot more. These blowers with the 70 to 75 mil pulley are effectively at the maximum of their efficiency range. If you go too small on the pulley, you will get a small increase in boost, but at the expense of temperature, which then means you lose a little bit of grunt as well. So it's not worth it always running a lot smaller pulley on these. Really interesting to see how we go with this one here. Other small differences are, you'll notice, and I'll get my cameraman to come up a little bit closer and we'll put them side by side, is the diameter of the throttle body assembly here compared to the diameter. This one is a little bit bigger, so obviously it flows a lot more, still fits the original factory throttle body. And the other thing I wanted to point out too, which I'll show in another video, is you'll notice inside here, down the bottom there is the sight glass for the oil level, which is important inside this assembly. And if we turn it over, there's the sight glass. That represents the oil level that you need to keep inside. Now, if you've got a Sprintex supercharger assembly on your car, make sure you check that oil level regularly, because they come with a little dipstick as well. Really, really important that you make sure that you've got enough oil inside there to lubricate the gear drive. So there you have it. Really excited about getting this car back together, getting on the dyno, generating more grunt. For more technical information, you go to our website, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. I'm Brett Middleton, and from a fun point of view, we look forward to having some updates with this car on the dyno in the next couple of days. Bye for now.